Hello, this is Claudia Alick. Welcome to Producing in an Age of Pandemic, or in the Age of the Pandemic. I, of course, was just started off with a piece of gossip and complaining about tech. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to indulge, and then we're going to start with our introductions as we normally do, saying hi, hello, this is who I am, this is where I'm coming from. My colleague will drop our shared notes, our shared notes in the chat, so we can all be adding collectively into that meeting making device. But let me complain for just a hot second. So I was reflecting that in our last planning session for this group, we were complaining about the fact that when people register for a Zoom meeting, it creates a list, like a database of people's email addresses. Isn't that great? But it actually doesn't allow you to easily download that list. It doesn't allow you to easily share that list of people. It's incredibly inaccessible. It's interesting. It's an intake tool that was not designed to create paths of further communication. So it's actually a point of inaccessibility and irritation. And we've had to come up with a bunch of systems weirdness where we decide who on the team is going to go in there and do the labor of copy pasting. And that was one of the things that we were talking about. And maybe we'll talk about some other user experience design irritations that we've experienced in life. In the meantime, let's actually begin this meeting proper. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to see your faces. So happy you are alive. I will model our introductions. I'm going to ask one of my producing team folk, if it's possible, please drop in the chat what our introductions are. And of course, I'm going to bring this in. I think I might have brought this in last week. Tara Moses shared this with me, where she said, you treat time as a relative. So we're going to treat time as a relative and be loving and consistent and full of consent with how we are managing our time together, but we are managing it together. So we don't want all of our time to be taken up with introductions. So we try to keep that introduction in like a 3-minute, that check-in in the 3-minute spot. We ask that you definitely share what your name is. What your gender pronouns are. If you can, do a land acknowledgement, letting us know the indigenous land from where you're coming from. At the end of all these introductions, I will drop a beautiful online land acknowledgement and share that with all of you. Let us know if you have any access needs that are not being served or need to be served, or anything we can keep in mind to more thoughtfully serve your access needs. And then, if it's burning, if it feels necessary and awesome, share. And actually, we're a pretty decent sized group, so I think everybody could share a challenge or a discovery and not take up the entire meeting. So if there's some producing challenge that you are working to resolve, or a question that you're trying to find the answer to, share that with the group. Or if there is something you've discovered, either something awesome you witnessed online or some tool that you played around with, please feel free. I'm Claudia Alick. Gender pronouns, they, their, she, hers. You can use those interchangeably. I'm speaking to you from land of the Ohlone people. The people are still alive. I am the executive producer of Calling Up Justice, a transmedia social justice company, and my practice is one of producing and performing. I have a muscle disorder, so that means I will sometimes be doing things physically that feel like they're communicating, but they're not. And I might be pulling a face if I have a twinge of pain, but that's never me pulling a face at anything you're saying. Other than that, I have my water and my coffee and my ridiculously large bowl of oatmeal. So all of my access needs are met. And I've already shared with you my observation challenge, which was me complaining about Zoom. There are others, but we'll just keep it to that one for now. Oh, and if you could, please place your name in the chat to queue up. Since we like to practice horizontal leadership rather than hierarchical leadership, like I'm taking on the role of like facilitator for the purposes of us having a smooth meeting, but we would love it if you could call on yourselves in terms of the order with which you speak. So please unmic yourself and introduce yourself to the group and queue up in the chat.
All right, I'll go next. I am Kholoud Sawaf. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm speaking to you from Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is the land of the Papa, the Kholoud, and so sorry, I forgot the last name. The word is it's at the tip of my tongue, but I'll find it. And I'm a theater director and creator, and I'm part of the Calling Up Justice producing team. I usually share, we usually share the agreement, the communication agreement, but part of that, and sorry, this is on me, I'm a little behind today and I don't have it pulled up, but part of that is please mute yourself when you're not talking. That way we can make sure we don't have feedback in the sound. Thank you so much. And thank you, the group is already passing the role. So I'm checked, my access needs are met, and I'm checked. Thank you.
Thanks, Kholoud. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Byron De Vega. He, we, ta. I'm a composer. I write a lot for theater, and I am on a lonely land in a place that is now called San Francisco. What an amazing time it is. And Claudia, thanks again for holding the space for all of us to meet. This is one of my favorite Zoom meetings. And I'm really here to listen. I'm so curious what everyone is up to. Thanks. I'll pass it to Mickey.
Good morning. I'm Mickey Goldhaber, and I am, I go she, her, hers. I am in Berkeley, California on Ohlone land, and I'm the artistic director of RICRIP's Disabled Women's Theater Festival, theater, and the lead instigator of the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival. And I'm thinking a lot about how to engage with both of those projects now in this time. I'm continuing to participate in Crip Camp, which is something that's happening every Sunday. It's a wonderful gathering of disabled activists, speakers, and it's you know, sort of launched from the movie Crip Camp, which if you haven't seen is magnificent. So I've been enjoying doing that, hanging out with the Crip Camp. And the other thing I just want to share is that in this moment, I have begun an exciting new project that has been sort of, you know, something we've been talking about for a long time, but because my collaborators are in New York, I think we were sort of waiting till we were all together to sit down and do it. But now, of course, we're just doing it on Zoom. So we're doing it. I'm writing the libretto for a new opera. So that's really fun and exciting. Thanks. And my access need is that I'm eating breakfast. Thank you for watching the performing art of me eating.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Eugenie. First time coming here. So glad to be here, and thank you for making this space and this brain trust available. It's wonderful. It's just the ticket for what we need now. So thank you. My pronouns are she, her. Joining you from Ohlone land, San Francisco. I am artistic director and playwright, Eugenie Chan Theater Projects. Let's see, currently a boon and challenge is a new vaudeville that Byron and I are working on. So we are trying to figure it out with our wonderful team, how to make it online. And so thank you so much for being here. Access needs are all met, and so happy to be here. Thank you. JJ.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is JJ Johnson. I am in the land of the Piscataway in the DC area. Pronouns are he, him, his. And I am an actor in the DC area and have been taking the time during the pandemic to write some monologues and holding competitions online to provide a way for people to have fun and make a little money on the side. And my access needs are met. I think the biggest challenge in any sort of producing way right now is just, I live in an apartment building where they're doing constant construction. And so having to deal with noises, I think it's probably the biggest issue I'm having right now. But other than that, everything is going pretty well. So thank you all. And I think next up is Sabrina. Kate. Kate, is that okay?
Thanks, JJ. Hi, all. Kate Freer, she, her pronouns. I am zooming in from Lenapehoking, Manhattan, otherwise known as Brooklyn. My access needs are met. I'm a multimedia designer, creative technologist, educator, organizer, documentary filmmaker. Many multi-hyphenate, constantly shifting things. And one really wonderful thing that has happened over the last few weeks, I've missed this for the last couple of weeks, and I'm so happy to be back. But I have been working on this larger project, sort of a pulse check on like the First Nations community all across Turtle Island with my partner, and we had to create content with over 25 people that are located in very different spaces with very different technologies, and all of the content produced by those folks. And we've been really taking our time to do it well, and to produce it in a way that it's very like high quality, and that everybody's content is about like the same quality. And so we've been sending it out to all of the participants of that to get approval, and that has been very exciting, just people's reactions to it. So I hope to share that with you all maybe in the coming weeks. And a challenge also is in the midst of righteous uprising, which is awesome. Not awesome, I mean the energy and the anger and the community, but is that we were just about to launch this huge website of 11 designers that is a platform for to celebrate designers and creative teams, and we were like supposed to launch it, and now we were like, we're pausing. And we were just like, we're not even into doing this right now. But now we're trying to evaluate when to launch. And that is challenging. Done.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Hamilton. I use the pronoun she, her. My access needs are met. I am talking to you from Pecumtup and Nipmunk land in Western Massachusetts, which is where I run the Co-Festival of Performance. And thank you to this group, because I think largely because of you all, we are doing our first online event this Friday on Juneteenth. And it was inspired by Trump's announcement that he was going to do his rally on Juneteenth, which he's now moved back a day. But we are doing Deletta Gillespie's Magic City Massacre, which is a piece about Tulsa, Oklahoma and the 1921 massacre. We are doing post-show discussion, and Daryl Davis, who's noted for his work convincing the people from the Ku Klux Klan to leave and renounce the Klan, will be part of our talk back. Rain Pryor, Richard Pryor's daughter, who's an incredible performer activist, she's going to play Justice in it. So we're putting it together in a week. It's like crazy. We may need to be hiring more backstage crew people to do sound and, you know, admissions, all kinds of stuff. If anybody is interested in that, please let me know, maybe in a message in the chat. And eek, but you know, responding to the moment. That's me.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lucas, she, her. I'm coming to you from Frederick, Maryland. I don't know the land acknowledgement here. I am a producing artistic director of Free Range Humans. We are an immersive entertainment company working in primarily theater so far, but also we've been experimenting in the digital world, and with the pandemic going on, I've been trying to learn more and more about how I can integrate our storytelling and serve our community. And My current challenge is I'm opening a drive-in live theater at the parking lot of the local mall, if we can get all the permits and pieces put together. And my access needs are met. And I think that was everything.
Yes, John, I believe it's your turn.
And actually, this is Claudia going to jump in. Just reminding folks, jump into the notes. Those notes, in fact, I'm going to pause and interrupt our introductions. Hold your place. Don't forget it. To do a little shout out for the tool that is the notes. So back in the day, Shakespeare created a tool, words on paper, that allowed people today to take that tool and use it to make some kind of performative meaning. We're doing the same thing with our notes, but the performances we're trying to help people make are being able to check your work out, support your work, find out more about you, and also access all of the amazing platforms and tools you mentioned. So please engage in our group note-taking process. We have it open for a reason. Jump in that Google Doc and drop your links. When you drop them in the chat, what you're doing is you're creating another layer of labor for one of the producers on our team to make sure they grab it, and they will, but we're not awesome at it. So if you want to just take your agency and your power, we would love it. Jump into those notes. All right, I'm handing the introductions back to my people. You're doing awesome. Thank you.
That's me, I think. Claudia, you are awesome, awesome facilitator. Hi, everybody. My name's Joan Lipkin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am talking to you from the land of Osage Country, which is also known as St. Louis. I'm a writer, director, and activist, and we are in the process of commissioning dancers and choreographers and spoken word artists to create short pieces about the urgency of voting and the history and all that entails, whatever aspect interests them. We will be centering our work on artists of color and also trans, non-binary, and disabled performers. And our challenge is to try to determine, and hoping that people can give me feedback, maybe in the chat, the best format for them to record and share, and for us to disseminate across multiple platforms. And thank you. It's so good to be with you in this very difficult time. Yeah. I pass to Patricia.
Thank you, Joan. Patricia Miller in the Ramaytush part of the Ohlone lands, otherwise known as San Francisco. Pronouns she, they. Access needs not met, need more tea. Sorry, I'll have to leave and get that. I'm a freelance producer and director, writer. I was working with the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival, and I've been getting involved with Fool's Fury's new ongoing weekly embodied practice sessions. I see Deborah is there, so that's very exciting. Also, last week I mentioned I attended the Improbable Theater convening out of the UK, and want to big up the technology they use there with the Kiko chat. If you want to know more about that, I can let you know that directly. The challenge right now is just to keep listening, stay focused, watching this digital theater grow from the very rough show that we did for Bay Area Women's Theater Festival, Amplify, on April the 18th, to some of the super sophisticated stuff like Peter Koh's work at ACT, and also what's coming up from this group, watching the ambition and the architecture growing, and I'm just staying open and wanting to be available and support wherever that's needed.
I believe Kitty is next after Patricia, and then also if we want to, for the folks who have not gone yet, if you want to say, I'll go next, we have the next 3 people lined up, but feel free to mention in the chat who's going next. Okay, I'll hand it to Kitty.
Hi everyone, my name is Kitty Drexel, pronouns she, her, and occasionally we. I am the Queen Geek at the New England Theater Geek, which is a critique and reviewing website for the New England area. And I'm also a performer in the New England area. And I am currently working with my team of geek writers on reviewing and critiquing online content. There is now more content than there are hours in the day, and that is amazing. And we're hoping to give constructive feedback to as much of it as possible, and it's very exciting, as well as getting Zoom audition notices and performances out to our performing community. My access needs are met, but I'm working with a migraine, so I'm going to stick around for as long as I can. And now I have the honor of passing this to Tanya.
Thank you, Kitty. Hello, folks. My name is Tanya. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. Traditional territory that I'm on right now is the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Algonquin people, colonially known as Keddy Island. I'm a poet and organizer, producer, currently sitting with wonderful big questions about my role going forward in spoken word. As our collective deepens our understanding of the realities that our art form, really is a Black and Indigenous art form, and we are all guests here who are white or non-Black, non-Indigenous folks. I have been mostly offline, so the technologies that I have to report on this week are like birds and bees are amazing. They do their thing and they move around and I think we had one pretty detailed chat one time about how to be in our bodies and care for ourselves, and that continues to be a question for me in terms of online work and recognizing the importance of also being a human in a body outside of those technologies. So great to see all of you today. My access need is that I'll mostly be listening and have to leave shortly after 2. Great to see you. Thanks for holding a space for this calling up team. I'm not sure who is next, but please check in.
I believe Deborah is next.
Hey,
Thanks,
friends. Thank you, Tanya. I just put in the chat the link that holding space, this class that Patricia mentioned. My name is Deborah Eliezer, she, her, hers. My access needs are met as long as my Wi-Fi holds out, and I am sorry, I recognize that I showed up late and I have to leave early. Many anti-racist meetings today, and so I'm grateful for this cohort. I'm calling in from the Ohlone lands, also ancestral lands of, no I'm not, I'm here. I'm calling in from the ancestral lands of the Pomo, which is in western Sonoma County in Northern California. And my access needs are met. I'm the co-artistic director of Fool's Fury Theater in San Francisco. And let's see, yeah, I would say this class coming up originally was about negotiating the nature of liveness, theatrical liveness in the digital sphere. But now, by necessity and by urgency, it is really become for me a question of how we make space for Black bodies and voices in the digital sphere, and what that means when the people showing up are predominantly white. Because so I feel that I'm in the midst of a lot of transition, and part of this offering is also helping me negotiate that in terms of, so I'm just kind of bringing it into this conversation, because as we transform and as we are starting to get more interesting offerings, all kinds of things, it's like, how do we keep looking at, decolonizing the digital sphere and keep looking at the work that we're making through a social justice lens. And I'll keep it at that today. Check.
Cool. Hey y'all, I'm Liam. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a director, maker, and a member of Last Call Queer History Project. And This week, I'm really grateful for asynchronicity for people who are like doing things live, but then making them available for a week. I'm doing a ton of extra childcare and a lot of doctor's appointments, and still being able to experience some of the live work I want to experience. I also did my first attempt at improv in a like Zoom space. And it was really not comedic improv, but like compositional improv. And it went really well. And so I'm coming with gratitude for like tools that seem to transfer into this space as well. I'm really grateful to all of you who hold this space. Thanks for having me here. Pass it.
Okay, I think that's me. I am Erin Merritt, and I use all singular pronouns. I am on the land, what is now known as El Cerrito, East Bay, or the Bay Area, is the ancestral unceded lands of the Chochenyo Ohlone peoples. I am mostly a director and producer, and I work with the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival, but I also have a new venture, and Magic Theater. And I also have a new venture called Neighborhood Stories, which is actually a live theater event, amazingly, in this time. So I haven't talked about it much here. My access needs are met. One challenge I discovered from this week. Well, my big challenge actually is because I'm producing something that is live, and it is actually also, I'm able to do it in a safe way, but it is also challenging to reach BIPOC performers and anybody that's not living in a privileged area, because we're having to perform near a person's house, and so we're trying to find places where people can feel safe, that is near their house, that's outdoors. Were you raising your hand at me, Claudia, or you just happened to?
The reason we do shared everybody else raising hands too is because I have a muscle disorder. So sometimes my body gives you signals that are not communicative. So just trust that if there are many hands up, that's an indication that it's time to wrap up.
Yes. I'm done.
I believe Emma is next. And if you haven't gone yet and would like to say hello, please feel free to put your name in the chat. Sorry, Emma. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I'm Emma Goldman Sherman, she, her, hers. I am speaking to you from Lenape land in very northern tip of Manhattan. And let's see, I am a playwright. I'm also a dramaturg and a writing coach and a producer. And I'm the founder of 29th Street Playwrights Collective, and I run a thing online now called Right Now Workshop, which is early development for playwrights with live actors. And in December, I started a Zoom company offering support for female identified writers online. And I am still continuing to do that too. So I offer all that. I can put all these links in the notes. My most recent practice thing is that my play, Tanya's Lit Clit, was commissioned at Experimental Bitch Productions. And so we did a 29-hour in January at Wow Cafe, and then the revision and the next 29-hour piece of that was supposed to be last week, and we ended up doing a kind of hybrid performance online. I've just uploaded it to my Vimeo account, and I can leave the link with the password because it's private, even though it's all non-equity, which we had to do because of equity issues when we reached out to them asking if we could use our original cast. What we ended up doing in this hybrid performance was quickly recording scenes from rehearsal and actually editing them with choreography and all kinds of weird stuff, and then doing these live interviews interspersed with the scenes. And the live interviews were with medical personnel because the play is a ballet and burlesque about the history of medical bias from Hippocrates forward. It's a 7-actor ensemble piece. Anyway, I'll send you links. And we did that, and it was very well attended. We have 150 views now, but there were about 40 people there for the bulk of the time on YouTube and Facebook. And that's it. I will thank you. My access needs are met. It's good to be here. Who's next?
Ariella. I'm coming to you from the land of the Coast Miwok, now known as Novato, California. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a director, producer, educator. My access needs are met, dealing with a little anxiety today, but I'm here. I have not done a ton of work creation this last week, but just doing a lot of processing and collaborating with the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival to coordinate some letters regarding activism for defunding police and reforms locally in the Bay Area, making our voice heard, and going through kind of a shift professionally towards a little bit more admin focused work, and also gearing up for other production practices that are just starting out and figuring out how to move forward. So glad to be here. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Sabina. I'm on Lenape land, New York. I use she, her pronouns. All my access needs are met. And yeah, I'm a theater performer and director. And I haven't been having any specific challenges this week.
I believe that's all who we have that put their name in the chat. If you haven't gone yet, if you have not introduced yourself yet, would like to say hello, this is a great time to do that. I think we have a few people that might not have put their name in the chat. Maybe they don't have access to it or driving.
And of course, it's the complicated thing of managing a digital space. We aren't trying to create the circumstances where we're forcing people to be vocally present if they don't want to be, or to be visually present if they don't want to be, because we're practicing some radically accessible design aesthetics. So just naming this out loud, we're designed to be pop in, pop out on purpose. So we totally appreciate when folks acknowledge, I'm gonna have to leave early, but we're designed to be functional during a global pandemic. So these sessions are, you can join early, you can join late. We are attempting to keep our introductory moments to that half-hour footprint. And I, of course, did the sloppy time management thing of counting the number of people who were in our Zoom session when I started, and then that number doubled within the first 10 minutes of our beginning. But we're still doing a beautiful job of managing our time together. Now, as always, we had an amazing planning session to decide some of the things that we could do together, and then I was taking notes while you were all introducing yourselves as to what we might transition into for our group conversations. And today, we're going to do the design experiment of breaking into breakout groups, and we're going to see what happens with this community when we break into small random groups for conversation. And that's going to require a little bit of quick math and time management on my end, as well as I decide the number of groups and all of that. But a couple of quick notes. So I just said we're radically accessible. We're already doing relaxed meeting style. Again, this is about creating the most accessible way for us to share our knowledge with each other and make meaning with each other and build the new field. So, so it's completely fine to drink, eat, do all of those things. I also want to name something that is very true and real and has come up in a couple of the other gathering spaces that I've been in. Our space has a lot of flow. It's a different space every single time, but I'm deeply aware when our space becomes white dominant and how that impacts our conversation. So I'm just saying that as a design factor that takes place. This space is not always white dominant, but sometimes it is. We never know who's going to come every time we open up our doors. We are definitely taking proactive steps to invite Black, Indigenous, and people of color proactively to join us in this space, because we also recognize that we live in white supremacy culture. And if you don't actually do the work to invite people, make your space as welcoming as possible, white supremacy culture will just default to making a white dominant space that is only causing us to reify white dominant design aesthetics, which we do not want in the world. So just naming that out loud as a reality that we're living inside of, that we're aware of. So I was going to share with you the land acknowledgement. Now inside the notes, we're going to try and keep this as a link in the notes always. I have been gathering some good land acknowledgements, both digital land acknowledgements and other land acknowledgements, and also that special link that lets you look up what your land is. But this is the hardcore digital land acknowledgement that we came up with for the We Charge Genocide TV project. And this was based on Adrian Wong of Spiderweb Show, and a land acknowledgement that they created, and a land acknowledgement that H. Harakuti Sharif Williams, he's a professor at CUNY, and I met him at the Racial Justice and Performance Conference. He was running it. We acknowledge that settler colonizers and imperialists from Europe took and unceded the land on which we gather from the people who had stewarded it for generations. The land has been and continues to be occupied and held by force. We acknowledge that we are contributing to that legacy now. We acknowledge that settler colonizers and slavers from Europe used stolen and enforced labor of African people to subsequently develop the land. We honor the land of all who endured and continue to endure in the face of settler colonialism and white supremacy. Since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within technological structures, including the equipment and high-speed internet, which are not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art that we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. I invite you to join us in acknowledging all of this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time and for each other to consider our roles in reconciliation and decolonization. Have I been muted this entire time? You heard me? Oh, thank goodness. Because that button said mute, and I was like, oh no. Have I just been very silly? Because I couldn't see the screen as I was reading the resource document. So I don't know if we're going to read that full land acknowledgement for every one of our digital sessions, but I want to offer it to you as a resource and invite you to do your own exercise of crafting and creating your own specific land acknowledgement that works for your purposes. If it works to copy paste, go for it. But I just say it's a beautiful exercise, and I'm trying to help us be thoughtful about it in a digital format. So we have 3 things that we can do in our breakout groups. Thing number 1, we could potentially watch that Joe Hodge video. It's about 5 minutes long, and then use that as a spark off, beautiful point for folks to break off into breakout groups and have delicious, juicy conversations about liveness. And the only reason we would do that is I love and appreciate this theater artist so much, and that sincere and beautiful document provides a lot of discrete talking points that allow you to maybe get at some of the things that you've been talking about in here. So that's actually been on our agenda for weeks, but we never get to it because this is what else you brought up. So this is what else we could talk about. Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a gigantic political day of action that must be a day of action. Many people will be producing things. I'm producing the launch of the We Charge Genocide TV project. That's why we're not doing the field trip. We were going to do a field trip where we showed you how we did our live stream and the OBS technology. And then we realized, oh, we don't actually have time to share our process this week. We can share it next week because we're prepping for the launch. But we could go into our breakout groups and talk about what is the thing that we are doing that is producerial, that is cultural producing, that is engaging, that is activism. What are we doing on Juneteenth? That could just be what we do. We could stay all here together, just round robin. We go into breakout groups, talk about what we want to do. Maybe we'll go into breakout groups, talk about what we want to do. That's an option. Other option that we could talk about is user experience design. This morning, I had the experience of finding out that the Every 28 Hours Plays website was not creating a clear pathway for those unfamiliar with the project to go onto the website and easily download the plays. It had some paths that were confusing, paths that made you think, oh, instead of going to this link that says plays, that then has a thing that says download the plays, I should go in this other place that has me fill out a form and do all this other labor. And I was like, oh no. So this morning I spent an hour going into that website and tearing out the stuff that had our users going down paths that didn't have them taking action immediately. Because I was like, oh, I want people to take action immediately. What can I do in my design to help design the audience member or the person, the human being who's going to engage with the digital space for them to take action immediately? So that might be something you want to do. In your breakout groups, you could have a conversation about how do we create action with our user experience designs, either in live embodied, physically embodied space and or in digital space. So y'all, so messy. I've just given you the thing we plan to do that's clean and well designed. And then 2 different options. What y'all want to do? I see that someone has just put into the chat, but what if we want to do all of them? All right, now this is another design flaw with this site. I don't think I have the ability in real time in any way that makes sense to split people up into groups that are really clean and good. But this is what I could do. I could make a breakout group for one conversation and then leave this room for the other conversation, and then we could have 2 conversations. What y'all think? Yeah? Oh, I'm excited. This is an emergent design thing. We're gonna see if this works. Very exciting. Okay, and also, again, just telling everyone that notes document, it's already looking beautiful. I use it as a tool to find your artwork. So just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a beautiful job. It's looking really beautiful in terms of accessing your work and finding out what you're doing on Juneteenth. So I'm going to and actually what I'm first gonna do is make sure my other colleagues are actually empowered to do this kind of stuff with me. So I'm making sure they are hosts as well. Yes, I've just made your co-hosts. I should have done this at the top to empower my other human beings helping me manage space and time so that they can all have the ability to do things. Okay, so I've just made you co-hosts, I think. All right, your co-hosts. There we go. Now I'm going into my ellipses button. I'm clicking breakout rooms. So it's giving me these options. I can be lazy and split us randomly into 3 different rooms of 20 people each. Let's see if I can split us into 2 rooms. Okay, there we go. I can split us into 2 rooms. That's a little cleaner. And it says automatically. So I think this should work. So it is going to split us randomly though. So I think this is what is about to happen. And my colleagues and friends, feel free to unmic yourself and interrupt me as I talk through what we're about to do, because this is messy. So I'm about to hit the create the breakout rooms. It's gonna split half of us randomly into this other room that I'm not in. And then half of us will stay in this room. I'm gonna make this room the Juneteenth room, where we talk about Juneteenth active stuff, and we might even maybe get into that user design stuff. The other room can be the liveness, embodied, all of that juicy, because I saw, and again, I'm gonna lean on my other managers of space. I could use your help. If we watch the Hajj video, are we doing that before we move? Thank you for asking. It is my hope that you can watch the Joe Hajj video in that other room. So Now the question is, do any of my, I see someone shaking their head. Again, you please unmic yourself and say that out loud to everyone.
To the best of my experience, if you want to show the video, I think you have to do it from the main room. The breakout room has a lot less facility in there, so you might need to swap it around. That's what I believe.
Okay, does anyone else have the impression that you can't share screen in a breakout room? All right, I'm seeing some nodding heads.
I can't remember.
I feel like you,
co-host.
Yeah, I think that you should have the ability in the breakout room to share your screen. I feel like that should be a capability, but I'm not going to not trust you or believe you. I'm doing time management stuff because I honestly don't want to watch the Joe Hodge video if this room's not going to talk about it. So I think I want to do the risky experiment of the Joe Hodge video. Link is in the notes document, and I'm going to hit the create the breakout rooms. We're going to break out. Like I said, it's going to break us out randomly. So for those of you who have been put in the Joe Hodge room who do not want to be in there, come back in, opt back into the main session. For those of you who are randomly sorted in here, I am hopefully going to be triggered by my buttons that will allow me to manually put you into that room, which I think I can do. But if I try to manually place everyone, I think that's chaos. Although this did take a fair amount of time. All right, so doing this, creating the breakout rooms random style. Uh-oh, I made 3 rooms. Oh, I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I made 2 rooms, and that means, and this isn't a room. Goodbye. Because I think I assigned you to a room too. Claudia, Alick. All right. So by making 2 rooms, I've now sent people to 2 separate random spaces, and the main space, which is actually being recorded, has me in it. Okay, so Claudia frickin' Alick. I think I'm going to undo my breakout rooms, or are people going to jump out of their breakout rooms? I think I'm going to close all the rooms. I'm closing the rooms. I'm closing the rooms. This is chaos. I've just closed the rooms. What I ended up doing was making 2 rooms, which was very smart. Hi, friends. Hello, my genius friends. What I did was I made 2 separate rooms rather than just 1 room. So we're going to try this one more time. It's just going to take 40 seconds for everyone to rejoin us, and then I'm going to split us one last time. I apologize. This was me trying to do some organizational math stuff that I've never done before in my head. I've just learned a lesson. The next time I try and do this on the fly, off the cuff, organizing people randomly into breakout rooms, I think I've got it. It's all about doing it in the lab. All right. So 10 seconds, and then I can split us off again. Apologies.
No needed.
I love messy realness, it's true.
All right, doing this again. All right, so.
And we're back.
So I'm deleting room number 2. I did not mean to make. Hopefully this is not going to kick these people out. I hope this works. I'm deleting room number 2. Okay. Now I'm clicking my ellipses button, clicking breakout rooms. I've got breakout room number 1. Oh, is it going to make me, oh, fiddle-dee-dee. All right, it's annoying. I feel like potentially I should have just done the slow process of doing you all one at a time. It would have resulted in the same amount of time usage.
Don't worry about it. Thank you for doing this, Claudia.
Oh, indeed, indeed.
Did great. Yeah, we're all with you, Claudia. I did breakout rooms for an event a couple weeks ago, and we had 10 different groups rehearsing and like 70 people. And I had set it up beforehand. And then it said to me, you have to do it manually. You have to destroy everything you set up beforehand.
Right, yes.
And I didn't want to lose what I had done. And I'd actually done it 3 times because I had lost it 3 times in the before world. And it was so complicated. So I'm right here with you. You'll get it.
This was also me trying to do some emergent on the fly stuff. So we're going to try this one more time. I've made one breakout room. That's actually logical. Now we're going to be split into 2 random groups. Half of us will go to that breakout room. Nope, that's not what's going to happen. It's going to send everyone to that breakout room. But that's perfect.
That's
Absolutely perfect. That's the design that we want. It took me a while to get there. So in order to create on the fly 2 rooms where we could have 2 different conversations that we choose to participate in, I've made 1 breakout room. Everybody's going to get sent there. Anybody who wants to talk about Juneteenth is going to opt out of that breakout room and return with me in this main session. And then y'all can talk about liveness and other beautiful topics out there, and we're going to talk about this in here, and then let's return to each other we usually gather for approximately 90 minutes. We have 30 minutes more to gather together. I would like to invite our liveness folks to return to us with 3 discrete learnings. 3 things, 5 to 10 minutes before the end. So so 10 minutes before the end. So talk for 20 minutes. Okay, let's do this. I think you're all going. You're all going. All right, you're all going to the rooms. It's very exciting. Goodbye. 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 Oh, that's because you've decided Fool's Fury wants to stay. No, Fool's Fury left. Okay, so now, if this exercise worked correctly, people should be opting back into this space. There's a button on the bottom of the screen usually, although these apps keep updating themselves, but there's a button on the bottom of the screen that should allow people to update. Okay. Okay, somebody's rejoined. All right. Hey, Patricia, what was that exercise like, being in that other room and coming back into here? Did that feel confusing? Did you know how to get back?
I worked out how to get back, and when the first time we joined that room, we were trying to find out how to do it. And then the second, I think you sent everybody out, and then I found the way to do it, but nobody announced this is how to do it.
I didn't say the button. There's a button on the bottom,
right?
And you got to click it right, because if you click the wrong button, you fully leave the session.
Right. You have to go into breakout rooms and then elect to leave. And I think if we wait a minute or two. What, Kate's there, Sabrina's there.
Yeah, I had to leave the meeting and then come back into the meeting. It would not let me leave the room.
What?
I clicked on it, clicked on it.
It was a little wacky. Same.
All right. Well, let me jump into.
Am I one of the hosts, or is it just Kholoud?
Yeah, I gave you co-host privileges. Let me jump. And the reason I gave you co-host privileges was also so you should have had the ability to, inside the breakout room, do stuff. We're still on my theoretical schedule, but we're about to go over by a minute. But I'm going to jump into that breakout room, see if I can help lead people back to this room to talk Juneteenth.
I think if you leave as the main room,
yeah.
No, it's all right. We'll just stay in stasis.
I think you can type a message to them.
Yeah.
And that might be the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
You can do a little thing that comes in over the top of their screen.
Broadcast.
That is what I'm doing. I'm hitting the broadcast.
Yeah.
Where we are on our learning curves.
I have to run a gigantic meeting tomorrow for Dance USA, and they wanted to run through it, rehearse it 5 times, and I'm just oh my gosh. But it's because they're so anxious.
But also every single Zoom setting is different. They're all specialized. My Zoom settings are different than your Zoom settings. So it actually took me a while to make sure all of my back end Zoom stuff was set up correctly, even to allow us to meet in this way. Opt out of the breakout room by clicking blue button on bottom of screen. Okay. because I'm not gonna do this because I don't have the button because I'm the host, so I can't see it. But there's a button right there that should
Right,
be
mine did
leave
not
breakout
work.
room.
Mine did not work.
All right, well, in the meantime, let's talk Juneteenth. Like, that's what this room's about. I'm just gonna trust that this is shared leadership. I have other human beings managing space and time who are in that breakout space. I will admit right now I'm having that weird moment of just like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm curious. Anyway, let's talk Juneteenth. What are the, so Sabrina, you've told us about the Juneteenth action you're taking. Tell me, is it free of charge?
What it is because I'm trying desperately to pay artists and technicians, there's a sliding scale. So I have on the web a patron fee, a normal fee, and a discounted, like affected by COVID and then I have a pay what you want sliding scale, either more or less at the very bottom.
Awesome.
So it's a full range.
That feels really good. I mean, frankly, there are a lot of human beings out there in the world with money who should be compensating the artist creating this work. Just because the work is about social justice or about themes that are about justice doesn't mean that it should be free because it's a public service. So I'm not mad at you for charging that money, but thank you for making it a sliding scale so that there's some
so there's suggested options so that people will sort of have an idea and a framework, and then there you can do it for, like, I think $1 or even $0 maybe.
Okay. Kate, before you bounce, what you got going on Juneteenth?
I am volunteering with Movement for Black Lives for the whole weekend. So I'm doing oh my God, what the hell? The art end of things. I'm doing like digital signage, and then I am doing live streaming for various events and channels in person.
Well, you might be the person I need to talk to then in terms of we're trying to find, I've got a complex design problem for the We Charge Genocide project that we're trying to resolve. So we currently have a website, and the concept of the website, in fact, why don't I? Claudia, Alick. I don't know where the website is. We've been doing a bunch of work on it. So potentially I'm about to share something that is a hot mess, or because we're what's it called? Migrating the site right now. Let's see. Let's see if this just takes me. See, yeah, we're migrating the site. So it's tripping hard. Let's see if I just do that. Will it take me to something? Yay, it took me to a thing. Okay. Oh, and there's actual links. Okay, that's exciting. Now, so will this go there? Come on. You can do it. Yay, it actually went. All right, so currently the website design is this. You go to the resource link. You can, it has an invitation to action. It's like, hey, do something with this information. And then you get to enjoy it. And these resources are everything from a documentary, a historical lecture, a spoken word poem, an article, a collection of plays. It's a lot, like it's very broad in its content. Half of my producing team is literally on the streets protesting, right? So they're all in real time as we're producing. So we produced the first live stream performance that was sort of like a kickoff event June 1st, and we're inviting people, put content on the page. As this is all happening, they're on the streets capturing protest information and all of this. Just gonna check this. Okay, that's exciting. That's the website designer telling me something about the We Charge Genocide website that I'm just talking about right now. That's fun. I was checking because I was concerned it might be someone in the breakout rooms. I'm trusting that everything is fine and they're totally happy in that room and they don't want to be in this room, but I don't know. Good times. All right, so the challenge, the design challenge I'm trying to find is, we've decided that we're going to we have We Charge Genocide, a YouTube channel embedded on the site. We've got producers on the street taking photos getting live footage, doing all of this, and just sending it to me because I'm their friend. And they're like, oh, in real time, yo, no, this is happening. I'm going to get to the blah, blah later. And I'm like, this is the content. How do I get this content onto the site without creating an extra job where somebody has to do a lot of labor taking their content and putting it, or is that the inevitable solution? I just need to find a person who's going to take all of their stuff and get it on the site.
There are so many different ways to do that.
All right, talk to me.
I mean, the easiest way is just to, like, if you have different streams that are embedded, like you're saying the YouTube, or if people are doing like Instagram or videos and stuff, and they're just hashtagging it, and it will sort like automatically to your page. So it's like pulling very particular hashtags, and or that folks are like logging that stuff. Like a lot of the time we'll have just like an Instagram that's like a hidden Instagram from like the rest of the world that's just about, or not like that hidden, but it's just like dedicated to like uploading content that is for a particular site, so that you can switch to a different account. Yeah, but I'm sure that there's a way to like auto-populate a YouTube thing so that like it doesn't have to just be going through one person.
Well, auto-populating is the key, where I'm like, oh, can I find a way to auto-populate this so that I'm not having a human doing this labor? But I also have the design complication of an uncontrollable multiple number of people gathering content and publishing content on various platforms at various times, in ways that are by necessity emergent and unscheduled. So I'm liking the idea of, because I've done this where I've had like an app plugin on a site that pulled from one of the social media channels. And if I told everyone on my team, we're going to come up with the most specific, weird hashtag no one else ever uses, and we do that might be the way to pull that content. It's been driving me batty because I have like 2 weeks of this amazing and I have no way to like publish it in a way that makes sense labor-wise. So
I mean, the other way, if you really, really trust your team, would to create a password situation where it's a password that shares, so they all are you. So I did a Zoom call where I was talking with my other Sabrina Hamilton the other day because my tech person had signed in as me, and then I was in as me.
Yes, we already have a system where we have shared permission, shared systems, but we're finding though, when people are literally on the streets, their ability to log into a separate system to upload something special, they just don't have that capacity. So I'm trying to come up with some like rapid response, auto-populate, like ways to make this the design function that will work for people who are literally on the streets.
Yeah, I like the hashtag seems to be the easiest and is like literally the whole point of an octothorpe. And if you don't know 99% Invisible, a podcast that's all about design, and their specific episode about the hashtag octothorpe is really awesome.
Oh yeah.
But that's like where the whole hashtag came from, because it is really specifically searchable. I'm going to think about this more, and I might write you.
Cool.
I love these kind of design challenges, though. And design and technology challenges is like my whole jam.
So Tanya, just inviting you, if you would like to voice, we were talking about actions that we are involved in that we're taking on. Hey, Kimmy. Oh yeah, I'm realizing I don't have my thing where I can see people who aren't, well, no, I guess. Well, anyway, we are just talking about and sharing the actions that we're taking on Juneteenth, and sharing any design challenges that we might need to resolve to help our actions on Juneteenth happen better.
Currently, I'm available to support Juneteenth actions. Our collective did a Black and Indigenous open mic instead of our last show. So we're meeting tomorrow to figure out what our next steps are. But our regularly scheduled show is June 27th. So I guess here in Canada, we tend to celebrate more in the summer, the liberation of Black people from slavery. So yeah, here to support and listen and amplify.
I know I talk a lot because it's my meeting, so I apologize for taking up so much space. I also have been low-key thinking of producing something that makes no sense. Like it's ridiculous to decide to produce something 3 days before it would happen. The We Charge Genocide team already made the very responsible choice of, we're launching the website. Let's not produce an event as well on Juneteenth. I want to host a jump in like open mic for just anyone just to jump. I kind of had that desire to just like have an open mic, maybe all day, just being like, join, voice, say something. I'm not sure if that's a logical desire because other people are doing other things. I can just join the things they're doing.
I'm happy to support on the back end, particularly according to an Eastern time schedule. There's a mosquito. And I guess one thing that is my learning from the last 2 weeks is that when we did have that Black and Indigenous only open mic, we unfortunately had 4 interruptions, I think by 4 separate Zoom bombers, whereas in our regular shows we haven't had any. So I think, you know, it's obvious that the racism of the trolls is like one of the motivations in terms of Zoom bombing, which was obvious, but we experienced it again in the spoken word community in Canada. And so, yeah, just a reminder to anyone who is producing something, it's actually more important to have more people on the back end. We were able to shut down everyone with a singular click as soon as they started saying, you know, terrible things. They barely got a word or two out of their mouth and they were gone. And we actually had set up the breakout rooms for anyone who seemed to just not understand what the space was about. We were willing to kind of talk them through to bring them along. But unfortunately, people seemed way too far gone and we're just there to harass. But in terms of, yeah, if that's helpful for anyone producing something to think things through, you know, we were colloquially calling the breakout room like a white tears room, you know, where a white person could support other white people to be like, get with it, come on, what do you need to talk? Okay, let's be here to support. So yeah, I hope that's helpful in terms of remembering also like the protocols. You can mute everyone, you can use the security features, or you can click. I think the most intuitive thing is click on the face and click remove. So there's 3 ways to get rid of anyone who is bringing inappropriate racist behavior to a space that's not intended for them whatsoever.
I think that's why we're maybe thinking in terms of using the Zoom webinar instead of the Zoom meeting.
Yep.
If it's, especially since it's not this thing, I have been thinking all along that we would be doing a slam first and following a lot of your protocols for doing meeting versus webinar. But now that we're doing something that's more a theatrical kind of excerpts, that we might move to the webinar version.
I think you're thinking very quickly. I've already started. As many of you know, I was doxxed by white supremacists maybe like a year or so ago. So I've been waiting for the second wave to come, and it has started. So just, yeah. And in fact, I wrote myself a note actually here about protocols and safety that I was going to bring up when everybody returns as one of our final things to talk through, just because when you're doing, we're living in a time where there's a lot of white supremacist violence that's trying to shut down anti-racist spaces. That's real. Tanya, those protocols were incredibly useful. I want to say, I mean, like, you have time for this. I recognize that your life is so full and you are doing so many beautiful things, but if you magically were able to write a very short Medium article that was just that, the white tears room, loving it.
I'd be happy to, yeah. And also I do have to, as I mentioned, jump off the call early, but if anyone needs my support, I think you have my email. I'm happy to be of service. So I'm happy Juneteenth. Yeah, let's celebrate ongoing liberation.
Thank you, thank you. All right, we had 2 other faces in this call and we were chitter-chattering about my stuff. Was there anyone else who wanted to voice things they were working on or problems they needed to resolve? All right, I gotta say, putting everyone else in the breakout room, I really thought more people would join us back here. I'm surprised.
I did have a problem with the leave the meeting also, so I just like logged out and came back in because I clicked the leave room. So who knows? You know, there was some interest, I thought, as well, but
yeah, and my instincts are in the room that's not being recorded, a lot of juicy conversation and learning's taking place. I'm kind of tempted just to bring it back here, even though that's me violating the performative score. They're supposed to have another 4 minutes. I think I'm gonna do what we said we're gonna do. We're gonna let them keep talking for 4 minutes, but I want to know what they're talking about. And I'm going to resist the room to give them the urge to give them more directions on how to get here, because it's just 4 more minutes, and then we're going to transition into final remarks. I've also been trying to figure out how to collect all of the most exciting Black Lives Matter stuff and make sure that we are publishing it hard on the Transmedia Performance Facebook group, just so that we're spreading the word, because I recognize there's going to be a lot of people who want to be supporting work and who can't find it. The user design mistake that I discovered this morning, I discovered it because the New York Times published an article on 12 streaming plays that can help you talk about Black Lives Matter. And none of my work was on it. And I was like, New York Times, you wrote an entire article in 2016 or 2015 about the Every 28 Hours plays. There's an entire page of 7 productions of streaming material on there in bite-sized forms, in long forms, on YouTube, on Vimeo. I am not PBS though, and I am not the public theater. And I am not apparently creating the user design that would allow someone to easily Google and find that content. So I went onto the page and added some additional language and some more pathways for people to find things. Because it is my hope that when people Google, they'll find it.
yeah, but that's also like, you know, the New York Times, and what kind of theater being produced by who, being reviewed by who are they giving platform to? So
and also
I'm even worried about that with what we're trying to do too, because it's so out of our normal pathway that our normal forms of communication are not working. I'm not sending out a postcard, you know, I'm not, you know, it's so I'm worried that we're doing all this stuff and that we won't have the attendance that we could. Because we usually tend to be so much about being in person.
I think that's like the larger question. Sorry, I know that you were just about to say something, Claudia. Actually, I'm going to pause.
No, go ahead.
I think it's like the deeper work that you were talking about before, but not just inviting folks into a space or a show. Like why would any like First Nations person that like hopped onto a Zoom that had predominantly white human beings be like, well, I was invited, but why am I going to stay here? Or why am I even, like?
And it's deeply frustrating living in the United States, because you'll create like for instance, this space is 100% run and led by queer women of color, right? Mm-hmm. And yet, inevitably, when you create something that has full openness and say everybody come, it immediately becomes a white dominant space, and then you have to do a bunch of labor. Yep. That's just designing in the United States to a certain extent, but also I think in digital spaces.
Yeah.
Unless I make it BIPOC exclusive, that's the only way I can fight that particular design tendency. Okay, so I've just written a note in the broadcast saying I'm going to close the room and invite you back, so they're not shocked and surprised. And I'm hitting close all the rooms. And now they're being given a little notice being like, you have 60 seconds and then you're gonna have to get out. And then when they return, I'm going to ask them, why didn't you come back here? Were you not able to? We're only gonna indulge in that for like a minute. Then they're gonna report out their awesomeness, find out what they were talking about. And I'm gonna make sure to mention these safety things. And then we're going to do a request that we all fight the classist tendencies of only the New York Times being able to publish invitations to go support Black Lives Matter stuff. And we're gonna see if we can signal boost and lift up all of the beautiful anti-racist theater and action and activism that should be taking place on Juneteenth. Hey, y'all. We still have about 13 seconds for folks to join. So I'm assuming y'all were able to click a button that allowed you just to come back into the space. Could you tell me, was that a button that appeared magically or was it already on your screen?
Appeared.
Both.
Okay.
So you could always leave at any time, but then there was a prompt that came up and said, you're going to go back and click now if you want to go now.
All right. We just want to take literally 60 seconds to reflect on Breakout Room. How was that?
Lovely.
I see thumbs up. People loved it. I will say I hated it. We loved our conversation, but I was like, what are they talking about? I want to know. So please share with us some of the awesomeness that you discovered, talked about, shared.
All right, I was nominated to report, but friends, please correct me and jump in if there are things that I'm forgetting and participate to this. We talked a lot about the conversation around the idea of defining the space and continuing to mention like a space as if the idea of cultural sharing and culture producing happens only in a specific physical space. And we felt specifically challenged that that definition of that space in the way that it came through in the video felt possibly exclusive to if you don't come with financial privilege, and specifically limiting to maybe one form of what that producing could happen. It's certainly a specific form and it's present and it's beautiful, but we're also feel like we are excited to discover what this moment brings in terms of talking about the form, talking about different spaces, talking about different format of cultural producing and sharing of the work. We talked also about the idea of theater being acknowledged as the 2,500 years ago. And Aaron beautifully brought it up, and there was an agreement in the group about the idea of like, what about all the storytellers from different cultures that were present before the Greeks, and what about the idea of storytelling is defined or brought up often as possibly have started with the Greeks, but we also feel like challenging that narrative specifically for those of us who possibly come like maybe from the oldest inhabited city on the planet called Damascus, which was 10,000 years ago. So we're also talking about storytelling being present before that time. And maybe I believe I'm maybe running into time, but please tell me, friends, if I'm forgetting anything that felt important. We also feel like the idea of the narrative and the idea of like that traditional storytelling that comes with this space that as it's defined is probably also limiting the experience, and that there are other experiences that are feeling that is part of the storytelling, including I believe Emma talked about an experience of the theater that she attended that felt very beautiful and moving and was a shared experience that feels like it qualifies as that we would define it as a theater experience.
And we briefly talked about decolonizing the canon in music as well as in theater.
Cool.
And I think we also, sorry, one other thing that was beautiful, Kholoud, but also I think talking about the possibilities of this moment, not having to stick to the rules that we've been fettered by in the past. That, you know, the combination of that the smaller and individual projects have more ability to take space right now, and then just kind of the zeitgeist of everybody going, hey, it's my turn, allows for very different possibilities to come to the forefront.
Oh, I see Joan moving her lips, but I don't know if she's talking to us or others.
You're on mute.
I mean, the necessity of adapting, because the times are different and we need to take advantage and enter into what these opportunities are. It was a great conversation. Thank you, everybody.
I love that someone put in the chat, FOMO is real. It's true. We can't record the chat. So like for me, it was not only Claudia personally, it was like, what were you talking about? I wanted to know. But also for the purposes of us sharing our knowledge and meaning making, I'm like, oh, y'all just did a juicy little mini lab that nobody else, like it was special and exclusive to you. And you brought in some of the beautiful discrete learnings, which was the design aesthetic that we were experimenting with. But I'm sad that others couldn't have enjoyed what I imagined to have been a really rich conversation and exchange. In our group, we shared literally the work that we were going to be doing on Juneteenth. This is what we're doing. We didn't all speak. We did talk a little bit about the user design problem of, or the design challenge of trying to create the modality of citizen journalists who are capturing real story and narrative on the streets, and how do we actually create a design that would allow them to almost immediately publish and broadcast their work without me needing to create like a staff position in between there. So we talked through that. Kate talked about the work that she's going to be doing with Movement for Black Lives, and Tanya shared a few very smart design choices for a BIPOC specific space that they created. And in that space, they were able to create a breakout group that was specifically for white fragility responses, or for calling in white folks, or they called it like the white tears room, something like that. There was like specifically a space for some folk to like process things for this. And it wasn't an affinity space. I think it was a BIPOC specific open mic, but a performative space that was centering people of color, but also had white folks in the space, and they just wanted to create the design aesthetics for best possible behaviors and space for folks to learn and grow. So loved hearing that. We also talked about some of the really smart design aesthetics for keeping your space safe. I revealed that, of course, when you're doing racial justice work, white supremacists attack you. So I want to say this aloud to all of you right now. Because you are doing this work with me, I have been doxxed by white supremacists and received death threats. The second wave has begun, and I am doing the work and labor to shore up the safety of all of my digital systems. I'm letting everybody I'm affiliated with know you need to be doing the same, because anything you do that is anti-racist is going to get you attacked online, and those attacks can sometimes manifest in ways that actually do risk your life. So just protect yourself online, feel free to follow up, and I might bring in some digital safety specialists to come in. But as a nutshell, Tanya shared this beautiful thing. It's really about just making sure you've got the safety plan in place. It's not about making your Zoom impenetrable with so many passwords and codes. It's about having 9 bouncers. Make sure you've got your digital bouncers online and ready to kick somebody out of the room the second they start to say some hate speech. But just know that the Zoom bombing is continuing, and you need to empower your bouncers and have a safety plan. But don't make your space so impenetrable that no one can access it. Just get more bouncers. We're almost out of time, but I see a question. Emma, please.
Just fast. I don't see the little security thing on this Zoom. Is that because it's not my meeting?
No, it's because this meeting is not an ultra secure meeting.
Ooh.
I design all of my sessions to be rather dangerously permeable, because they're peer exchange sessions where you're allowed to share your screen. So I have it set that lets you share your screen. So that means I've got 4 bouncers that are ready to make sure, and we have an intense protocol for managing the space. And that's how we manage that, but it is dangerous. One of you could, at this moment, disrupt and destroy the meeting and make this a moment of white supremacy culture. And then one of us would have to kick you out. And then we'd have to do a little talk about what just happened. That said, that's what happens in real space, in physically embodied space. Raise your hand if you've done a racial justice event where you've had a white person try to interrupt your racial justice event. Yes, I see hands raised. So these things that we are dealing with in digital space are similar to the things we're dealing with in physical space, but I do want to make sure everyone's being thoughtful and keeping themselves safe. There are a couple of different ways to kick a disruptor out. What I am going to do is I'm going to find a couple of great links for kicking folks out of the Zoom. There are a bunch of different ways to do it, and there's online video tutorials, and then there's also those articles that have the photos of the Zoom settings. But the fastest way for me to kick you out is to go to participants and kick you out. And the way I have my Zoom set up is when I kick you out, you can't get back in. So there are ways to set it up on the back end that can give you, the bouncer, the control and power you need to make sure bad faith participants aren't harming people inside your space. But like I said, I'm going to drop some links. What I will do is I'm going to drop those links in the Transmedia Facebook group. So please feel free to visit there, and I will also drop them in these notes. In the meantime, be safe. Please take action on Juneteenth. If that action is supporting somebody else's digital production, in between now and Juneteenth, promote those digital productions. Make sure you put your information in the notes so I can promote your digital productions, and wash your hands. Take care of yourselves. And thank you for being cultural producers. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Claudia.
Hitting stop recording. I'm hitting stop.